Facebook is dying. I don't use Facebook. I don't have Facebook on my phone. I do use Facebook Messenger, but only to talk to a handful of people. Now, this is actually, depending on who you ask, they'll say it's good news or bad news, but I want to say something before I read through this article. When it comes to censorship, which I disagree with, Facebook actually has been one of the most balanced companies. Twitter claims you can't make, disparaging comments about race, but then overlooks all of the anti-white sentiment that appears on the platform. Facebook doesn't. Facebook banned like 500 women, suspended and banned, because they were using the hashtag #KillAllMen. They didn't understand why it was against the rules, because in their mind, it's not racist to say kill all men. No, but Facebook did ban them. Facebook has a policy saying you can't disparage white people. Facebook has taken a hard approach like, listen, we don't want to play the political game, so we're just going to, we break the rules, you break the rules. And that's a good thing. Is ultimately censorship a good thing? No, it's not, but at least Facebook is willing to protect everyone based on their race and every gender, and not just hold a double standard. But the story we have here, Facebook exodus. Nearly half of the young users have deleted the app from their phone in the last year, says study. A new survey of more than 3,400 US Facebook users finds that 44% of users ages 18 to 29 have deleted the app from their phones in the past year. Overall, 26% have deleted the app, while 42% have taken a break for several weeks or more. The survey does not measure usage of Facebook's Instagram, WhatsApp, yada, yada, yada. Here's the thing. Facebook may be dying. Facebook owns a bunch of other companies. Young people are using Instagram more. So Facebook may go away, right? People will probably have Facebook, but they're not going to use it. I admittedly haven't had a Facebook profile in like 6-7 years. I do have a profile on Facebook, but what I mean is you probably have a profile with a couple hundred friends, and it's your family, and you chat with them. I have 5,000 friends, and it's mostly just where I'll post some opinions, and it's like I don't talk to my actual personal friends are just so mixed up within the whole thing. I don't even use it the way a normal person would use it, and so I've never really cared about it. I use the Messenger for sure, and I have it mostly deactivated, so it's actually just a connection for my friends and family. But for the most part, I haven't had the app on my phone in a long time, and I think Facebook may be going the way of the dinosaurs. But there's an issue here, right? One of the reasons that Facebook is kind of worried right now, and I've got some insider information, some sources say, they're facing regulation, and regulation is likely to come. Both the left and the right are calling for regulation. The left wants regulation because they want to ban hate speech, and they want to protect our elections. And the right wants regulation because they want to protect free speech, plain and simple. With Facebook dying, I don't know if this is going to matter, but let's read through the story about Facebook and the end. Let me know what you think in the comments too, if you're happy that Facebook is going away. But we'll see what they have to say, and then we'll talk about regulation. So, Facebook's year of scandals is driving young users away from the platform, according to a Pew survey. I'm just going to stop right here and say I really don't think it's the scandals that are doing it. I think young people just don't have a reason to use the platform. Pew surveyed more than 3,400 US Facebook users in May and June and found a whopping 44% of the 18 to 29s have deleted the app. The results don't necessarily spell dire news for the company as a whole. The survey measures only the core Facebook app, not Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, all of which remain popular and offer a lot of room for revenue growth. In addition, it does not measure Facebook users outside the US, where growth has continued as North American usage has stalled. Hey, look, we're the trendsetters, right? We had Facebook first, then everyone else got on it, so I'd imagine, what we do, other people eventually do. And if Americans aren't on it and there's no revenue, opportunity for revenue for people outside of the country, they might abandon it too. Even so, the results suggest that a lot of Facebook users are paying attention to the company's troubles and using the service less in a response. Facebook has spent the last year or so grappling with a number of scandals related to abuse on the platform, including an FBI report showing that Russian operatives used it to spread false news to try and influence the 2016 election, and improper use of personal data by Cambridge Analytica. On Wednesday, Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg testified before the Senate Intelligence Committee about Facebook's efforts to fight interference. However, former Facebook security chief Alex Stamos recently warned that the U.S. is no better equipped to fight foreign interference in 2018 than it was in 2016. The scandals are affecting Facebook's financial situations as well. The company's stock plunged more than 20% on a single day in July after Facebook warned on its earnings call of slowing ad growth and higher expenses related to fighting misinformation. Shares are off 1.4% in midday trading on Wednesday amid a broader decline in tech stocks. So this is an older story. This is about a month old. But I wanted to read through this because what we're seeing, according to the story in Pew, is that people are upset over Facebook for the scandals that have hit it. Because of this, we've seen calls for regulation. And this is my jumping off point to talk about this website, Regulate Social Media. Now, many of you are probably seeing this, and from a conservative point of view, from a centrist point of view, and even a center-left point of view, it's like, free speech, right? You know, the libertarian ideals of free speech, that's why we should regulate social media. That's not where the money's going. The people who want to regulate social media, who are putting money into it, are more authoritarian leftists, and they're not talking about free speech. Here's a site called Regulate Social Media. It's literally regulatesocialmedia.org. They say, social media companies must be accountable to the democracies that make their businesses possible. Major technology companies such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, Snap, and others define the information ecosystem in much of the world. Hardly regulated and hardly accountable, these companies are completely transforming the public sphere. While these platforms present new opportunities to connect people around the world, they also create attack surfaces for bad actors that wish to spread misinformation, encourage terrorism, and engage in online harassment, steal personal data, restrict free speech, and suppress dissent. I love how, look, one of their concerns is online harassment, misinformation, but also the restriction of free speech. I'm going to have to say that if you're talking about ending online harassment, you're probably of the belief that free speech isn't a thing on the internet, right? So you can say it, but I don't believe it. The age of unregulated social media must end, but bad regulation could cause its own problems. Now is the time to have these discussions before we end up with misguided rules and before it's too late. Across the country, on university campuses, at industry conferences, and other public forums, we urgently need to frame and debate these issues. So they talk about a greater transparency to governments and independent researchers. Right. This is having to do with election meddling. They say accountability and transparency to citizens. Citizens need to know how these platforms operate and how they shape user experiences and what the companies are doing with user data. Further, citizens should have the right to know when the technology companies make a mistake or when breaches occur, such as the Russian election interference campaign in 2016 or the recently announced theft of Facebook user data by Cambridge Analytica, how to regulate such disclosures, and what should be required in the form of robust consumer protections in an area ripe for discussion. Responsibility for addressing social costs. Facebook market cap, for instance, isn't far from that of ExxonMobil. Any company that has reached such scale produces some form of pollution or other negative social costs. Often regulators seek to make an industry pay for it, while Google and Facebook have each invested in some initiatives designed to address these kinds of externalities, particularly the impact on news media. Clearly, much more is needed. Governments should explore the appropriate levy and or penalties to place on these technology companies and what types of activities to finance to remediate negative social costs. And they say, join us. So here's what I want to say. Facebook's hurting. They claim it's because of the scandals. Because of the scandals, we're seeing more calls for regulation, but not from those who want to protect free speech. I believe we should regulate social media, and social media should guarantee free speech. I believe that Twitter shouldn't be immune from liability while also being allowed to curate what they put on the site. If you're a publisher, that's fine. Curate. If you're a platform, no curate. The thing is, when we allow someone like Jack Dorsey to decide that his politics are going to be the guiding principles of the site, then conservative ideals get removed. It is a fact. It is a fact that Twitter and other social media sites are biased against conservatives, and I'll give you a really simple understanding. Many conservatives believe there are only two genders. It's their right to believe so. They vote based on this belief. Ben Shapiro, for instance, talks a lot about this, and Ben Shapiro is extremely prominent. However, if you were to go on Twitter and express your beliefs about two genders and why you think people might think there are more than two genders, you can be banned for hate speech. The left would call it hate speech, the right would call it politics. And because of that simple example, we can see that the leanings of those running the companies are going to dictate what the rules are. So there is going to be a bias. In my opinion, we do need to regulate social media. I'm gonna scroll off this because I don't want to have that big thing on the screen. It just seems like really weird, creepy subliminal messaging. But the point is, I told this to some conservatives. If you do nothing, these big tech companies that are run by the far left will slowly wipe you off of their platforms. And your ideas will cease to exist. Regulation makes sense. And there's a lot of conservatives recognize this because people who are on the right aren't 100% opposed to regulation. They just tend to be opposed to most regulation, which means there's room here for compromise between the left and the right. Be like, hey, maybe we should come up with some ideas as to how these platforms should be regulated. Because if we don't, your ideas, the ideas of freedom of speech, are going to be wiped out. Because you're not going to be able to speak. Think about it. When they ban you from Twitter, your opinion can't exist on Twitter. And Twitter is extremely influential. Politicians are on Twitter. They have their own little kind of like political verification. Donald Trump tweets every day, like nonstop, right? If you're not on Twitter, you're not seeing the president's conversation, and a private company has done that. We cannot allow a private company, a multinational billion-dollar corporation, to determine who is and is not allowed to hear what the president has to say. Look, I understand the president is choosing to use a private platform, but we do have an issue when the platform has become so influential that politicians have to use the platform. So for me, I'm going to call for some kind of regulation, or at least the start of some debate. And I think this website, while they're kind of more of a blanket approach to the call for regulation, I'm concerned about people who want to ban harassment. Not that harassment is good, it's just that people who tend to be on that side are opposed to free speech. You should be allowed to be offensive, and you can block people. How we solve this problem, man, I have no idea. But you can comment and let me know how you think we can solve this problem, and maybe we'll solve it. But I gotta say, if we don't, we're in trouble, because we do have election meddling. We do have foreign governments trying to manipulate our emotions, manipulate how we vote, and we do have people who are trying to restrict free speech on these platforms. So, in my opinion, we should make sure it's regulated so that you can't be banned for having bad opinions. Anyway, I got one more video coming up. Some online betting companies are actually suggesting the Republicans have a better chance of winning the House. It's going to be really interesting, because who's right? The pollsters who have nothing to gain or lose by being wrong, or the gambling sites who actually need to make sure their odds are correct? Stick around, the video will be up in a few minutes.